Am I the a-hole for wanting my husband to turn off the lights and faucets? I am not sure anymore and I think I have gone insane. Am I the a-hole for lashing out at my husband for suggesting I stop buying formula instead of canceling his streaming services to save money? Am I the a-hole bought my ex-wife a new car and helped her with some bills? Now my wife is mad? Am I the a-hole for wanting my husband to turn off the lights and faucets? I am not sure anymore and I think I have gone insane. Edit. Hi everyone. I am getting a lot of comments saying my husband is abusive and I don't want to reach out for help from a governmental organization to see if they help women. But the thing is, I feel really guilty because he told me he would not treat me this way if I didn't nag him about lights, water, and trash. So I feel at fault. I am posting here out of desperation because I have been having this discussion with my husband for months. I used to think I was reasonable, but his inability to understand makes me think I am insane. Please help me with your objective feedback. My husband and I live together in an apartment. I go to work every day at 7 a.m. and by the time I get home at 7 p.m., the lights are on in every room and the water is running in the kitchen and the bathroom sinks. According to him, they are on all day every day. I cannot work from home and we are wasting a lot of money. I have asked him if there is any reason he needs to turn them on all day, but he tells me that it is impossible to turn the lights and water off. When I told him it is not impossible because he can turn them off using his hands, he says, "But you have hands and you choose not to work as a mechanic, so I also can choose not to turn it off." I tell him that it is different because it costs money and is bad to waste resources, but he insists it's the same thing. Because I can technically be a mechanic but choose not to do so. So why does he have to choose to turn off the lights? When I am at home, I turn them off after him and it doesn't seem to cause him any discomfort to have them off, but he just refuses to turn them off himself. When I talk to him about it, he says I am nagging him and that I should leave him alone. Is he right that I am wrong? And is his mechanic analogy accurate? By the way, we are a single income household and I know we could be paying less for bills if he would stop leaving things on all day long.
Initially, when we were dating, he had a job, and when we talked about marriage and our future, we had agreed that we would both work and contribute financially. But the day our marriage went through legally, he quit his job and told me he changed his mind and wanted to be a stay-at-home husband. The problem is that he wastes money and he also trashes the apartment, so I come home to garbage all over the floor daily as well. He isn't interested in therapy. I wish I could persuade him to go, if it would help, but he yells at me anytime I mention the lights and he even lectures me on how abusive I am for nagging him about the lights. I feel like I am stuck with him, since we are already married, and I committed to him, but living with him is really unpleasant. A lot of abuse is hard to recognize when it's not physical or someone yelling in our faces. From an outside perspective, let us tell you this is insane. Based on your comments, you did not marry this man. You married who he was pretending to be. The moment it was official, he pulled the rug out from underneath you. You feel stuck, but you are not. You are also not alone. A lot of us have been abused in these baffling ways. The night before the first day back to work after our honeymoon, my ex-husband took my alarm clock. I kept asking why and he said it annoyed him. This was before using a phone for an alarm, it was an actual digital alarm clock. I asked him what if I oversleep and he, completely calm but stern, said I'd just have to wake up on my own. In hindsight, this is the perfect illustration for how his abuse manifested. I'd exert all my energy trying to restore things to normal, while he actively worked against me. This is not the type of person you can negotiate with. Going to counseling with him will just give him more tools and lingo to weaponize. I'm really sorry. But I'm also relieved that you're seeing him for who he is so early and can get out before losing any more time. ETA judgment is clearly NTA. And I know I'm using a lot of definitive statements when these are obviously just my opinions, but it's how I wish someone would have leveled with me back. NTA. Do not try to make him understand, or hope that with consequences he will change, e.g. getting the lights and water turned off. You are in an abusive relationship. He is manipulative, controlling, abusive. Hitting you is wrong, no matter the degree of violence. Controlling all your money is financial abuse. Telling you you're abusive is manipulation, so you'll believe you're in the wrong. Quitting his job and making you the only one to bring money home is a way to ensure you can't leave him, even if you wanted to, because between all the living expenses of two people you won't have any money left over, even if you try to save secretly. Do not hesitate anymore. He kept up a careful facade until you got married, and now you're seeing him for the truly toxic, abusive, unhealthy, shitty person he really is. You need to get yourself to a safe and healthy space.
Am I the a-hole for lashing out at my husband for suggesting I stop buying formula instead of canceling his streaming services to save money? I, 32 female, the breadwinner, and have a toddler and a 9-month-old baby. Their needs are never ending, and everything I buy is expensive. My husband, 37 male, is unemployed but uses part of my salary for his subscription, paid streaming services, which cost about 80 plus a month for Hulu, Premium, Netflix, HBO, Amazon, ESPN Plus, and more. I keep finding myself coming up short with money. I kept neglecting buying hygiene products and have only one pair of shoes that look decent. I can't remember the last time I bought anything nice for myself and keep feeling guilty just thinking of going shopping for stuff that is necessary. I sat him down for a discussion and told him his subscriptions are taking money. I can't keep paying for them when I have other responsibilities. I asked him to choose one channel and he threw a fit calling me ridiculous to think streaming services are the reason I'm always short on money, and blamed it on the expensive and unnecessary makeup, he calls it fake up, I keep wasting money on. I got angry and said he needed to respect that makeup is part of my personality and won't quit buying and wearing it. He said that I was trying to financially control him since I got offended when he pointed out that I waste money on makeup and explained that he cannot and will not be bought with money no matter how desperate he is. I said okay, then let me cancel all streaming services and keep one till he can pay for them once he finds a job, but he refused. He said since he's the STAHP, then those streaming services are a right and not a privilege, and I should keep paying for them without complaining, since he's staying with our sons all day and it's taxing just like my job. Final straw was when he suggested I stop buying formula and go back to breastfeeding, since that is unnecessary and expensive. I was floored and was seething. I lashed out at him, asking him if he literally thought canceling formula is better than his precious subscriptions. Also, I have no time to breastfeed. He just said he doesn't know what it is anymore and that I was pushing him, but I told him he no longer has the choice and I'll just stop paying for all his channels subscriptions altogether, which had him reply that I was being unfair and unappreciative of his effort. He stormed off after calling me controlling and kept cold shouldering me. Am I the a-hole?
100% my partner is the breadwinner. I work 30 hours a week, but they make more than twice what I do. We both pay a proportional share of what we make towards bills expenses and still have a little left for ourselves. We recently moved and our rent increased, so they told me I needed to cut back on unnecessary purchases subscriptions and I immediately did so. They cut back as well. We also split household duties relatively evenly. I do all the shopping, doctor's appointments and kid activities, most of the child rearing, cooking, and general house cleaning. They do breakfast mornings with the kids and all dishes laundry. Typing it out, it sounds a little uneven, but I'm with the kids, well they do their chores, which is infinitely better than me trying to get them done with kids in tow. I also detest doing the dishes. You have to have balance that works for your family. You can't just expect someone to pay for all of your wants before their children's needs, or to spend every waking hour homemaking or otherwise working. I fully agree with the meat of your comment, but why does he need 5+ streaming channels if he literally works at home to keep the home tidy, everyone fed and the children taken care of? He shouldn't have the time to need them all. As a weird take. I, and many others, have 5+ streaming services and a full-time job. Do I watch all of them all day every day? No, of course not, just like I don't wear all of my clothes every day, play all of my games every day, or use all of my dishes every day. And yes, sometimes all of these things are true even for people with kids, and who manage to give them the attention necessary even with access to distractions. The difference is that I, and others, can afford these luxuries. Whether or not he does or should have the time for them shouldn't even be part of the conversation, as it should begin and end with the fact that they obviously can't afford them. Is he unemployed because he is looking for a job and can't find one, or because you both agreed that he would be the stay-at-home parent? Also, it really sounds like his current job of SOP is a very thin excuse from him, seeing as you do most of the housework and it appears you do a majority of the household shopping. His claim of financial control because you asked him to cut back on his services is a bit extreme dramatic. Yes, he may be bored at home, and not having any human interaction outside of babies all day is extremely isolating and difficult. However, he is very mistaken in thinking that asking to cut back even $30.50 in streaming costs per month is unreasonable and controlling. As someone else mentioned, you're a family, a unit, you need to make equal sacrifices, and it feels like you're already making more sacrifices than he is. Also, makeup is very much part of culture, and heavily implied as being part of the professional look in the workplace, so I really don't blame you for feeling that it is a necessary burden to the bills each year, especially considering you are not only the breadwinner of the family, but the sole provider. AITA. He's a jerk for asking you to start breastfeeding again when he knows it, but you and, whether he knows it or not, that it doesn't mean you can just go right back to breastfeeding a fully developing child immediately.
I, the a-hole, bought my ex-wife a new car and helped her with some bills. Now my wife is mad. My ex-wife was a stay-at-home mom during our 16-year marriage, and since we got married very young, she has very little job experience and is in her 40s. She works at a diner as a waitress currently. She no longer receives alimony from me since she remarried, automatically stopping the payments which were originally lifetime, due to the fact that she was in her mid-30s with no education or job experience. Well, now that they divorced, she's had to get a job, since unlike with me, she didn't get hardly any spousal support from her last husband. The thing is, she doesn't make enough to really do much of anything. I have a lot of disposable income, likely more than people reading this would be willing to believe, and she has no disposable income. She fell way behind on bills and reached out to me as a last resort. So I asked my wife, thinking she'd say okay. She did not, and almost immediately after my ex and her car were involved in an accident, she had a hospital bill which totaled $77,000, and I paid that expense along with buying her a new car and gave her e-money to catch up on bills, with extra to pay her monthly expenses till she gets back on her feet. My wife was pissed when she found out. She claims my ex needs to fend for herself, but my ex is only in this position because she had to drop out to take care of our baby and ended up staying home. When we split, she didn't have the credentials to make a living wage. I had quite literally no choice. I told her it would be cruel to watch the woman who enabled me to get where I am suffer. She lost it and now won't talk to me.
There's a couple of ways I see this honestly. OP was a little bit of an asshole for going ahead and covering these expenses for his ex after his current wife had already said she wasn't okay with it. $77K plus a new car is a lot of money, and in a marriage those kinds of financial decisions should always be discussed and agreed upon before action was taken. He spoke to his wife, she told him no, he did it anyway, seemingly behind her back. YTA here. OP's wife was a bit of an asshole for not being more compassionate to his ex. Whether she likes it or not, OP and his ex were married for 16 years, and it sounds like they share children. Of course Hess still going to care about her to some degree if things are amicable. I can understand her being uncomfortable with his ex's bills being so high, but to say she needs to fend for herself is completely unfair. His ex was held back by a lack of work experience and was in dire straits. Even if his wife was uncomfortable dishing out all that money, she could have at least been open to finding some other way to help and give support to the mother of her husband's children. NTA here. Edit. Since OP has clarified in comments that he earns in the top 1% and was not hurt financially at all by helping out the woman who supported him in earning his wealth, I rescind my white. I'm that child you're talking about. My dad, for a good 20 plus years, was a mechanical engineer who made $200K plus a year. When he divorced my mom, he quit to go back to school, so he would only have to pay unemployment child support, and even then he never paid it. Since he was out of the country, we couldn't do much of anything. My mom was left with 2 children to raise on her own, a career to rebuild, all while my sister and I watch her struggle when dad could have helped, and it would have been pocket change to him. The only good thing he did was get fired before I needed to file for FAFSA, since there was no chance of him helping me out with university. Agree, I'm pretty confused. First wife stayed home to care for their child while he worked. The wording in his post makes it sound like he earned his disposable income, quote, the woman who enabled me to get to where I am, versus inheriting it. So what's confusing is why when they divorced, did she not get a payout? It's common for there to be an equalizing payment to put both spouses on equal footing financially. What OP did now to support his ex is generous, but IMO, too little too late. When they divorced, if he cared so much, he could have ensured she was set up for success with funds for an education and whatever else she needed to build her own financial freedom. And for the current wife, how much of this disposable income was earned during their marriage? If what's his is hers is as he says in a comment, then he should have done more to ensure his wife was on the same page as him instead of just giving the money after she had already said no. YTA. Your ex-wife had lifelong alimony, and I am assuming it was a decent amount by your comment of how much disposable income you have. So not only were you paying her alimony, but since you had a baby she was also collecting child support due to your sizable disposable income. I'm going out on a limb and would wager the child support was also a decent amount. Your wife could have chosen to not get remarried and not lose the court's award of lifelong alimony, which is extremely generous. That was her choice. She also got divorced for a second time. People make choices in life. She was a wife 2 times and a mother. She is not a child. It is nice if you to give it a minimum 100K to your ex-wife, however you are doing it at the detriment of your current wife. If my husband were to give his ex-wife a minimum of 100K, I would be aggravated, to put it mildly. She had a comfortable situation. She got remarried and she ended that arrangement. YTA for actually still giving her the money. It is not your fault she got remarried. Her and her ex-husband could have lived together. They did not need to get married. I feel bad for your current wife. NTA, your ex was in dire need and came to you as a last resort. She raised your child, and you're right that held her back in life. Well, you were able to advance since she stayed home with your child. I'm sure your daughter appreciates that you were willing and able to help her mom as well. Your current wife needs to get her head out of a certain orifice of hers and realize that it wasn't just your ex you were helping, but also the mother of your child and to some extent your child. It doesn't sound to me like your ex was just looking for extra dollar to go waste. I see you commented that she doesn't work, so therefore it's your money to do with as you please, so long as it didn't cause you any hardship, which you say it didn't want.